Hey there, ladies. Come on in. Hello, hello. Giving this a moment while people are coming in. Amazing to have you here. So, Zoom had you arrive with your cameras off and your microphones off, your audio off, but you're welcome to turn that on. Hey, Shelly, how are you? So everyone is welcome to turn your cameras on if you would like. Let me just let a couple more people in. Hey, Jen. Awesome. All right. So just what I said to everybody else, Zoom automatic setting has your camera off. You are welcome to turn it on if you'd like, but by no means do you have to. No pressure. Thank you so much for joining me. It's so wonderful to see you all here. It's the top of the hour. We have quite a bit to cover today. So I'm just going to hop right in and we will start the presentation. So here we go. So if you guys, let's see, maybe if Jen or Shelly can give me a thumbs up if you are seeing the presentation. All good? Awesome. All right. So I'm going to start by introducing myself. For those of you who don't know me, welcome. My name is Kimberly Severson. I'm an advanced certified weight loss and mindset coach. And specifically, I coach women who are really into food and cooking and who don't want to diet. They've had a lot of bad experiences on restrictive diets before, but they don't really want to give up on their weight loss goals either. So I help women finally stop chronic restrictive dieting, and I teach them to lose weight in a totally new way while eating all the foods they love. So this workshop is for you if you're like me. Before I found this work, I had tried every diet under the sun, all the Atkins and the juice cleanses. Weight Watchers really was my go-to. I tried that about 100 times over the years. None of those worked for me, at least not long-term anyway, because they all took away the lifestyle I wanted, which is one where I can cook what I want and I can eat what my body tells me it wants and needs and what sounds delicious to me and lose weight. So I lost 35 pounds in 2019. I've kept it off easily ever since. At this point, I just enjoy this easy, drama-free, fun, super fun relationship with food without ever really worrying about my weight anymore. And that's what I want for all of you as well. Fun with food, no drama, and weighing whatever you decide is right for you. You can have all of this. And I know this workshop will give you the first steps you need to get started on that journey. So let's get started. In the next 30 minutes, we're going to briefly cover why restrictive diets just simply do not work. And then I'm going to share my 3 simple steps, my top strategies to stop overeating, which is really the key to losing weight without dieting. But I'm going to teach you how to do that without the crazy restriction and deprivation that we get on most diets, right? We've all been these ladies in these photos, these very bored, unhappy ladies. I had a lot of fun searching for those photos. But weight loss does not have to be this way. And I'm going to show you my radically different approach. So we don't need what diets typically give us, which is a certain low number of calories to eat in a day, and then a long list of foods that are good or allowed, and other foods that are bad and just strictly forbidden. We've all tried to lose weight that way, and it's really painful and it doesn't work. What you need if you want to lose weight is to know how to listen to what your body is telling you about how much food you need. That's truly it. Because the truth is, Weight Watchers doesn't know what you need in a day. Some app on your phone doesn't know what you need in a day. Your body knows that. But so many of us have no idea how to listen. So that's what I'm planning to share with you today. All right, moving right along. So let's talk about why diets don't work. There's a whole anti-diet movement these days. And if you're interested in learning more about that, I can't recommend this book, Anti-Diet, enough. It's incredible. And it and others like it were written because as a society, we're finally realizing how insidious the diet industry actually is. So in the studies cited in this book, they've determined that 95 to 98% of all restrictive diets fail, meaning that the success rate is just 2 to 5% of all people who go on a traditionally restrictive diet. Just 2 to 5% will actually achieve what we all pay money to achieve when we go on a diet, which is losing our weight and keeping it off permanently. So 2 to 5% of people on restrictive diets achieve that. And up to 98% don't lose weight at all, or will lose some initially, but then gain it all back within 5 years. And many end up heavier than when they started. So if we think about any other product that we're purchasing, we would absolutely not stand for this. Like imagine a restaurant where you go and you leave hungry, hungrier than when you got there. Or like you go to the store to buy clothes and you pay for them, but then you don't actually get the clothes that you paid for. You don't actually get the results you wanted. It sounds so unreasonable, but we kind of all just accept that this is what happens on diets. And the diet industry is so sneaky that they've convinced you that it's actually your fault when you don't successfully lose weight. They spin it to make it seem like, well, if you just had enough willpower, or if you just weren't so lazy, or if you just weren't a quitter, then you could have success. They lead you to believe that it's not them, it's you, which is total BS, right? This is what we're learning. So the reason it's almost entirely impossible to lose weight on a restrictive diet is because of what Christy Harrison, the author of this book, Anti-Diet, has dubbed the restriction pendulum. And the restriction pendulum is most people's natural reaction to deprivation. So deprivation or restriction, meaning literally just that, limiting calories, often on diets that will be 12,000 or even less calories per day, which I will tell you is literally the nutritional needs of a toddler in a day. That's what most traditional diets will try to restrict you to. So severely restricting calories or cutting out entire food groups, like going all low fat or going no carb. Those are both forms of restriction. And this is perceived by your body as famine. Your body doesn't know that you just joined Weight Watchers or that you just downloaded MyFitnessPal. It feels the physical effects of wanting and needing more calories or nutrients than you're giving it when you diet restrictively. And it perceives that as actual famine, as you literally starving. And your body is very smart. Its main job is to keep you alive. And so when it senses that it's being restricted of calories or nutrients, it freaks out. So the pendulum swings all the way to one side as you restrict on a diet. And it's your body's main goal to restore normalcy. So your body senses that it's starving and it turns up all of the alarms to get you to eat. Biologically, it jacks up the hormones that make you feel hungry, and it decreases the hormones that make you start to sense fullness in your body. It'll slow down metabolic activity in general, and it urges you to eat more energy-dense foods, whereas the rewards value of those foods go down in times of food abundance, but it goes way up in times of food scarcity. So it's urging you to eat the calorically dense stuff like all that fat and sugar to get your body back to normal. So when you restrict, you pull the pendulum all the way to one side, and then your body is like, oh crap, we're in famine. We got to fix this. And it goes on overdrive, trying to prevent you from starving so much so that it swings all the way in the other direction. And this is where we see overeating or even binging in response to restriction. So I'm sure you've had this experience when you start a restrictive diet. I certainly have on every single one. A couple days in, you feel like you're obsessed with food. Like it's all you can think about all day long. You have crazy cravings, very intense cravings. But then you're like, all right, I'm supposed to follow this diet. So you dig your heels in even deeper and you try so hard to grit your teeth and be good despite your body doing everything it can to try to get you to eat. And finally, your willpower runs out and you just say, F it. And you eat all the things, but resolving to be good again on Monday, or after vacation or on January 1st, we all do this, but it keeps us stuck in this cycle. So we try so hard to force these extreme restrictive diets, but then we end up eating often to the point of feeling uncomfortable and often on the exact foods we aren't allowing ourselves to have on our diets. And then we beat ourselves up for that rather than blaming the diets for creating this impossible to achieve scenario. We blame ourselves. That we're weak or lazy or quitters, and that we can't be trusted around certain foods, and that other people have willpower and we're just these like uniquely broken unicorns who don't have any. And then we berate ourselves, which just wears ourselves down even more and makes it even more likely that we'll eat or drink for relief. So it's this totally vicious cycle. But What I want you to know, if you take nothing away from this, I want you to know that this was never your fault. This is physiological. It's a survival instinct in your body. When you're hot, you sweat. It's your body keeping you cool so you survive. When you're extremely hungry and not getting the nourishment your body is asking for, your body turns up food-seeking signals because it wants you to survive. So this isn't failure. It's your body actually taking care of you. And it's the failure of restrictive diets that set you up to believe that you should be able to achieve something that your body just resists with all its might. So what do we do about this, right? This leads me to my first step to stop overeating. We need to first see restrictive diets for what they are, which is basically a biologically impossible thing to achieve, especially long-term. We need to remember that restriction pendulum and use that to our advantage to actually help us stop overeating. And this is the very first thing I do with my clients when we work together. So step one to stop overeating, eat foods you love. Instead of restricting anything at all, I encourage my clients to create a sense of abundance with food. So I want you to really hear that word, abundance. This is the exact opposite of what all restrictive diets do. All food is allowed on my program anyway. All food is encouraged. And you can do this work whether you're a client of mine or not. You can create a sense of safety around food, that there are no good foods and no bad foods. All foods are allowed. So this completely subverts that diet mentality. And this is not to say that you're going to eat only pizza and burgers and ice cream. You can have those. It's not to say that you can have only those, but you want to think about what feels good in your body and strike a balance. Just let one more person in. There we go. But think about the food you ate on the last diet you were on. Often this looks like super boring stuff we would never get excited about, right? Like plain chicken, dry vegetables with nothing on them, nothing exciting, boring salads, fat-free dressing, low-fat cheese, low carb, really fake foods. So I think we can universally agree that this stuff sucks. I want you to say goodbye to all of that. You never have to eat that again. If you're going to eat, let's say chicken and broccoli, maybe it's like chicken Parmesan with full fat cheese on it, or maybe chicken enchiladas with real sour cream. I feel like I have actual PTSD from eating fat-free Greek yogurt on everything and pretending it was sour cream and pretending it was just as good. It was not. But like have the broccoli, but use olive oil or butter, put some cheese or nuts on it, jazz it up and make it something you're actually looking forward to, something you actually like and anticipate eating. That's what I want you to play around with doing. So we need to teach your brain that there's enough food available that it's not going to starve between meals like you would have done on Weight Watchers or other diets, and that there's always more good food coming. A lot of clients come to me binging or dramatically overeating on the weekends or specifically on Sunday nights, and they have no idea why they do this, but it's because there's always this like subconscious knowing in their brain that they're going to go back to restrictive eating on Monday. So how many times have you told yourself, I'm going to be good starting Monday? What that means is I'm going to go back to restriction and deprivation starting Monday. So your body, being the genius that it is, urges and urges you to get as many calories or as much bad food as it can over the weekend because it knows it's going to go back to that famine state. So what we want to do is break that habit and reassure your brain that it will not have to starve and be restricted ever again. And we do that by intentionally eating those foods that we really want. So the foods that sound good and fun and exciting, replacing all those sad diet foods with the foods that we want, not because we're cheating, but because we're learning how to eat those foods without overeating them. So now I know what you may be thinking. You may be wondering, if we're going to do the opposite of what every diet has ever told us to do and eat food that isn't restrictive and boring, how do we actually translate this into weight loss? So that's step 2. We practice the habit of not overeating. And it is, in fact, a practice. It's something you teach your brain to do on purpose intentionally, which I will tell you is a heck of a lot easier when you're eating food that you actually like. It makes it way easier to stop when your body signals to you that it's had enough. So to help you do this, I'm going to share with you a tool I use with all my clients. So if you're on my email list, you might already have this, but even if you do, it's always helpful to revisit it, get very familiar with it, because this is the tool that makes all the difference for my clients. So this tool is called the Hunger Scale, and it outlines all of the various possible stages of hunger and fullness. So if you can't see this, if some of you are on phones or devices, this might be a little small. I will send it to you in the follow-up email, so you'll have this and you can really study it, get to know it, and use it as you eat. But basically what it does is it outlines all the stages of hunger and fullness from -6 down here, which is as hungry as a person could possibly be, like crazy uncomfortable and primally starving. So it goes from that all the way up to +6, which is as stuffed and sick as a person could possibly be. So now when people are experiencing the restriction pendulum, they often swing from these extremes. They let themselves get way too hungry because they're trying to eat as little as humanly possible to lose weight. But now that you know about that restriction pendulum, you know that that behavior backfires. The pendulum swings all the way in the other direction after we restrict. And that's when we end up overeating to make up for feeling so starved and so restricted, which means that we actually don't make much progress in the long run. And this is where we see that yo-yo dieting come into play, which is so bad for your body. But restrictive diets really set you up for that. So the antidote to that is to not do the restriction piece at all. Eat the foods you love, don't restrict. And you'll notice that this equilibrium point in the center is listening to and honoring your body's cues, taking yourself off that restriction binge roller coaster and just eating what you like in response to your body's hunger and enoughness cues, which is what the hunger scale teaches you to do. So let's take another look at it. So step 2 to stop overeating, I want you to use this hunger scale so that you never get too hungry and you never get too full, at least as much as possible. Remember, this is a practice. We're just learning. We don't have to be perfect. So when you're beginning a meal, you want to start when you're just a little bit hungry, which is right here at a stage I call -2. And you want to stop when you're just satisfied over here at a +2. So just short of being full. And because when you do this method, you never get too hungry, you're never feeling like you're out of control. So you know that feeling of being absolutely starving, like you're shaky and miserable, and it's almost like a panicky feeling. When you're in that state and you do finally get food, 9 out of 10 times you say, F it. I don't care about my diet. I don't care if I overeat right now. I just want to feel better fast. So you eat as much as you can, as fast as you can, and you just deal with the consequences later. But I want you to practice not getting to that state. So never getting too hungry so that when you do start eating, you're not coming from that primal out of control place. You're feeling in control. You can eat slowly and thoughtfully, and you can reference this hunger scale and stop when you're physically satisfied, not stuffed. So I'll send, as I said, each of you a copy of this, and you can print it out or save it on your phone and start practicing, starting to eat when you're not too hungry and stopping when you've had just enough. This is really where all the magic is. So you want to go from, as we said, that -2 stage to that +2 stage as much as possible. This is kind of like your Goldilocks sweet spot of hunger and enoughness. So this is what allows you to lose weight no matter what you eat, because it teaches you to listen to your body and to eat just what it needs and nothing more. And again, we're going to get this wrong many times on the journey as we kind of learn what these cues feel like for us. But the more times you can come back to this and practice it, I promise you the scale will start moving. And you'll do it in a way where you're never starving and never uncomfortable. So your body never goes into that panicky famine mode. So you're still giving your body what it needs and you're eating food you really like. You're just doing it in the amounts that will result in weight loss. So win, win, win. And this tool is really everything. I hope you use it. Does anyone have any questions so far? Feel free to unmute yourself on the bottom right. If anybody has any questions, just let me know. Anybody?
I have a question.
Yes, Jen.
So you were talking before about restrictive dieting.
Mm-hmm.
See, do you have a thought on, and I guess I'm just curious, like, what do you consider restrictive? Do you consider it none of that food or less of that food? I'm thinking mostly about low carb because it's easier to like cut back on carbs, but cutting them out altogether. I did that. I lost like 30 pounds super quick and they came back with like 20 more friends.
Yeah. Which is very typical, right? We see a lot of that.
Totally.
So, and this is so subjective, right? One person's restrictive is going to be another person's delicious and amazing. And you have to figure that out for yourself. For me, I know I spend a lot of time thinking about how I feel after eating. My body needs carbs. My body needs a good amount of fat. Healthy fat sometimes, but sometimes that's pizza and cheeseburgers, but that I feel better when I'm eating a good amount of fat, a good amount of protein, a good amount of a decent amount of carbs and some fruits and vegetables. That's what works for me. If I were to take away any of those, I would feel terrible. I would feel restricted.
That makes sense.
I recommend you really take some time and think about what that looks like for you and then subvert it. Play around for just a couple of weeks. What if I eat the things that I think I'm not supposed to have on a diet? When I'm losing weight, I check in and make sure my body feels good. I'm still eating fruits and vegetables and, all the stuff that keeps us alive. And I'm doing it while using the hunger scale. So I'm never really overeating as much as possible anyway.
Do you have any tips for like while you're eating, noticing where you're at on the hunger scale?
Yeah. So it's all, as I said, just a practice.
Okay.
I'll share my screen again so we can see it. It's just checking in. So let me share there. You can see the hunger scale up there again?
Yes.
So it's like when you notice, because this negative, I'll start with 0, neutral. It's like not thinking about food. That's where I am right now. I had breakfast a couple hours ago. I'm pretty okay right now. So I'm at a neutral, maybe approaching a -1, but it's just checking in with yourself. Where do I think I am on this? And then when I get to a -2, I'll eat, but I'll be totally in control. And then I'll kind of pay attention as I'm eating and moving through these stages again. Okay, I think I'm back at a 0. Okay, I think this might be a +1. Okay, I think I'm at a +2. I might be ready to stop. And you just get to know it and get to know what it feels like in your body. Awesome questions. Thank you, Jen. All right, so moving right along. Whoops, we went back to the beginning. Let's see. Okay, so eat food we love while using the hunger scale. Zoom has given me a challenge now. Here we go. Okay. Next up, the final step in this process, step 3, is to expect a little resistance from your brain. So if you are used to only eating when you're just a little hungry, if you are used to not only eating when you're just a little hungry, right? If that feels unfamiliar to you right now, maybe you usually wait to get as hungry as possible before you start eating because you're used to doing that on diets. Or maybe you mindlessly snack through the day and you never actually feel hunger at all. Or you might be used to getting full at meals or even very full. That feels normal to you right now. Those are habits that your body has right now. And doing something different, starting a meal when you're just a little hungry and stopping when you're just satisfied, not full, this is going to be new for your brain. This is going to be new for your body. And what we know about the human brain is that it really resists getting out of old patterns that it's in and developing new ones. So that doesn't mean that you're doomed to do what you've always done. We can totally change these habits, but it will be helpful and almost reassuring for you to know that your brain is going to have objections. It's going to have thoughts. It's going to throw all these reasons at you that you should just keep doing what you've always done. Expect that that's coming. That's totally normal. So this might look like a bunch of sentences in your brain, a bunch of thoughts. And we want to start catching those thoughts and noticing them. So this might sound something like, don't eat yet, just wait another hour or 2, you'll lose more weight that way. Or this food just tastes so good, we don't want to stop eating yet. Or another bite or 2 totally won't matter, just start tomorrow, start next week, start Monday. Like expect all these objections coming from your brain. I want you to start catching these thoughts and recognizing them for what they are so that you can then talk back to your brain with what you want to think on purpose. So your thoughts Your automatic thoughts, they're just like the first draft of the story. You don't have to believe them. You certainly don't have to act on them. You can totally talk back and remind yourself what you want to think on purpose. So you can reassure yourself by reminding yourself, yes, Kim told me to expect this. Kim told me this was coming. So my brain is just resisting because I'm learning something new. That's what brains do. They resist new things. But here's what I want to practice thinking instead. Something like, if I use the hunger scale, if I wait until I feel that pleasantly hungry stage, but not overly hungry before I start eating, and if I practice stopping when I'm physically satisfied but not full, I get to eat real food. I never have to pretend fat-free yogurt or fat-free Greek yogurt is sour cream ever again. I get to eat the food I actually like at every meal, and all I have to do is follow the hunger scale and just practice that. So it will take a little getting used to, but if I do it, I get good food and weight loss. And I never have to go back to a restricted diet ever again. So I want you to start to talk back to your brain. It will offer you objections and you get to tell it what you want it to think instead. So just like you would do with a little kid, like there's no monsters under the bed. Trying this new way of eating when we're hungry and stopping when we're just satisfied isn't scary. Like we can totally learn new habits. And then we get really delicious food. We never have to go on a restrictive diet ever again, and we get to lose weight. So remind your brain of that. So now you know why restrictive diets fail. They set you up for failure. And you have my 3 simple steps to stop overeating. So eat food that excites you at every meal. Eat what you're in the mood for, what you like, what makes you feel good, and what you can look forward to. That makes it so much easier to stop, to do step 2, to stop when you've had enough and to start when you're just a little bit hungry. So essentially to use the hunger scale that I showed you and try to eat within that sweet spot, pleasantly hungry, not overly hungry, which means you'll actually have a sense of control when you eat, and stopping when you're just physically satisfied, just a light feeling of food in the stomach, nothing heavy or stretched. You're not bloated or tired after eating. You feel good and light, and you feel like you've had enough food that you can last for 3 to 4 hours without getting hungry again. That's how you test whether you've really nailed stopping at that +2 stage. And the final step is to expect some resistance from your brain. Expect that habit change takes a little bit of time to get used to, and that in the process, your brain is going to create objections. It's going to get creative with the thoughts it throws at you. Nothing has gone wrong when it does, and you get to talk back to it and remind it that you've got this. All we need to do is follow the hunger scale, and we get to eat food we love, and we get weight loss at the same time. So if this was helpful to you, I would absolutely love it if you stayed in touch. I'll be doing these workshops twice a month. We'll do all kinds of new topics, so you'll learn new information every time. New dates will be released very soon. In an email, I'll send you all these links so you don't have to write all this down. You can just click on what is appealing to you. I'd love it if you followed me on Instagram. I'm sharing all sorts of valuable tips and inspiration there. And also, if my approach resonates with you, I want to encourage you to book a totally free consultation with me to talk about how coaching can help you finally achieve the weight loss that you've been trying to achieve through restrictive diets. What we now know are just never going to be the answer, right? So it doesn't mean that weight loss is never possible for you. Very much the opposite. Every single one of my clients has lost weight on my program, and I can help you get the same results without having to go through all of that restrictive diet garbage ever again, which is like my mission to save every woman from that. So if this is interesting for you, let's get on a consultation call and chat about it. If that's not for you yet, totally fine. There's so much free goodness for you available. I'll be sending out information about the workshops next week. So I just want to thank you so much for spending this time with me. I hope this was helpful for you. Again, you'll get a follow-up email with all these links. Feel free to reply to that. Ask me any questions you have. I'm here to help and support you. All right, guys, this was so fun. Thanks for being here. Have a fabulous day. Bye, everybody.